drafting Baker Mayfield, had a private investigator follow him around Norman to see how he acted, what he did, and all that stuff. There's concern there. And I believe that this stems from the Manziel comparisons. Baker Mayfield has gotten a lot of Manziel comparisons mainly because of how he acts on the field. On the field, he's a little bit arrogant. He's a little bit showman. That's how Manziel was. We all know how that turned out. But does this really surprise anybody that we're hearing that an NFL team had somebody follow Baker Mayfield around? I don't think it should be surprising at all. If you're thinking about drafting a player, if you're thinking about paying him millions of dollars, you want to know, especially if he's going to be your future starting quarterback, you want to know, is he in it? Is he worth it? Or is he going to be like another Manziel? Also this week we've heard about inside information of how these interviews are and the questions that are asked. Teams asking players, do you like guys? We heard your mom's a prostitute. Questions that in a normal job interview you wouldn't have. They're doing those questions for psychological answers. They want to see how the person responds, how they react to a question like that, or to a statement like that. They want to know what your psyche is. It's a big part of football. How's your chemical build? How is your psychological makeup? How do you respond to a question or statement that you probably weren't expecting to hear? That's why these NFL teams ask those types of questions. This has been going on for a long time. We're just now hearing inside information about what goes on in these interviews. Personally, look, I get that they're doing it to see, they want to, again, they're not doing it as a joke or to be crude or to be over the top. They're doing it because they want to see how does this player react to that. Because they're going to hear far worse during the game from other players and from fans. Far, far worse. I mean, I believe we all have come to know that the NFL in that environment is different. It is a Goliath, Roman Empire, cage fighting type of atmosphere. It's different. And you're going to hear, these questions that teams are asking players during these interviews, they're going to hear far worse thrown at them during a game. Far worse. So these coaches and these NFL executives and teams, they want to know, let's see how this guy reacts to this. Once he gets into the draft, or, once he gets into the interview room, ask him this. Or state this to him. See how he reacts. Now, of course, people are saying, well, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They need to get rid of it. That shouldn't be tolerated. I'm going to leave my opinion and comment out on this, but just understand that They're doing this for psychological reasons. There is a method to the madness. They want to see how the guy reacts to it. What type of response did they get? And they're going to compare that to other ones, because it's not just going to be one guy that they interview that they ask those questions to. They're probably going to ask those type of questions to every guy that they interview. And then they're going to sit there and go, this guy gave us this type of reaction, this guy did this type of reaction. Bridgewater signs deal with the Jets. Bradford joins the Cardinals. Kirk Cousins gets $80 million guaranteed with the Vikings. Case Keenum signs with the Denver Broncos. You had the Chiefs got Sammy Watkins. Jarvis Landry went to the Browns. Allen Robinson went to the Bears. Then you had Jimmy Graham went to the Packers. And I would think, in my opinion, the biggest surprise, Jordy Nelson got released by the Packers and about a day later signed with the Raiders. And then this morning, the Texans officially announced that they were signing Tyrann Mathieu to a 1-year deal. So out of all the quarterback switch-arounds, who got better? Who greatly improved their Super Bowl chances? Was it the Vikings getting Cousins on a 3-year, $80 million guaranteed contract, something that we've never seen before in the NFL? Was it Case Keenum going to Denver? And you do realize the Vikings now, Teddy Bridgewater gone, Sam Bradford gone. They've got one quarterback right now, and that's Kirk Cousins. I heard on the Will Cain show they brought up the question, out of the Saints, Eagles, and Vikings, who could you see missing the playoffs next season? The majority of people pick the Vikings, and I would say that's a high chance. I don't believe that the Vikings got any better in signing and acquiring Kirk Cousins. I think Denver helped their chances in getting Case Keenum, who seems to be a stable quarterback that, with the right personnel, the right coaching, can get you places. I don't think that they greatly improved their Super Bowl chances by signing him. I would probably say Kirk Cousins and the Vikings there helped themselves greatly in getting him. But the bottom line is he any better than what Case Keenum was? That's what this comes down to. Is he any better with that personnel and that staff than Case Keenum was? Because the NFC North is going to be tough for next season. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I think the Lions are going in the right direction. It's going to be tougher for the Vikings to do next season what they did this past season. And when you ask me, Saints, Eagles, Vikings, who would miss, the postseason next season, I would say Vikings. I would say that the Vikings have the greatest chance at missing the postseason next season. And look, Kirk Cousins battled for this. He battled for this type of contract and he got it. And applause to him. 3-year, $80 million guaranteed. Guaranteed. That means either way, he is going to get the full $80 million. Something you've never before seen in the NFL. Kirk Cousins has done it and has gotten that type of contract. Now the question is going to be, can you do what Case Keenum couldn't do and get them to the Super Bowl? But look, as I sit here and I look at what Case Keenum did last season and what Kirk Cousins did last season and what we've seen from Kirk Cousins, I cannot sit here and say to you right now that the Vikings got any better by letting Keenum go and signing Kirk Cousins. I just don't see that. I said when they were talking, they shouldn't have let Bridgewater go to the Jets. They should have tried everything that they could to keep him there. Now, who knows? Maybe this will pay off for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins will, do what he needs to do there, but I just personally don't see it. And look, I like Kirk Cousins' style. I like how he plays and all that, and the story behind of where he's came from and what he's done. But I just cannot sit here and say right now that I believe that the Vikings got any better by signing Kirk Cousins and letting Case Keenum go to Denver. I just don't think that it's that much of an improvement. I really don't. Denver helped their chances greatly because one thing that they needed, and we all saw this last season, was a quarterback. Case Keenum's going to improve that team. And I still think that they're going to draft a quarterback in the draft. I still believe that they're going, if the chips fall right, that they're going to draft a quarterback in the draft. And I would not be surprised one bit if that guy ends up being Baker Mayfield. Because I don't think Denver acquiring Case Keenum, I don't think that was the end of their QB carousel. They're not just going to go with just him. They're probably more than likely going to draft a quarterback in the draft. The question is going to be, who is it? And how is it going to compare to Case Keenum? Now, John Elway in Denver has said that Case Keenum has been their target all along. I don't believe that one bit because, like I said, I still believe they're going to draft a quarterback in the draft. But when I look at the Vikings and getting Kirk Cousins and giving him 3-year, $80 million guaranteed, again, congrats to Kirk Cousins, but I just don't see this drastically improving this team from what they had with Case Keenum last year. I don't think that Kirk Cousins is that much better. It's that much of a difference. Personally, I thought that the Vikings should have done what they needed to do to keep Keenum there and to keep Bridgewater there. Because now Bradford is in Arizona and Bridgewater is in with the Jets. Doug Martin went to the Raiders and Jordy Nelson went to the Raiders. That's a greatly improved offense within a day or two. I think Doug Martin still has what it takes. Marshawn Lynch was a huge disappointment last season. That whole team was, but there were a lot of issues there. But you figure you get Jordy Nelson from Green Bay and you get Doug Martin. That's going to greatly, and they release Michael Crabtree. That's going to greatly improve. If Amari Cooper can be the Amari Cooper that we saw 2 seasons ago, and Jordy Nelson can be a healthy Jordy Nelson, that's going to be a good team. That's going to be a good team. And now you're hearing that, I know the Packers got Jimmy Graham. I do think that Jimmy Graham still has something left in the tank. But now you're hearing that Aaron Rodgers is very upset with the Packers letting Jordy Nelson go, who we all know was his favorite target, was his guy. They had a great relationship on and off the field. They communicated extremely well. We all know how that offense was when Rodgers and Nelson were in there together. And there's a lot of talk that Aaron Rodgers is very displeased in the Packers letting Jordy Nelson go. And from what we're hearing from it, he wasn't told anything. He wasn't told, hey, we might let him go. He was not asked about this, told about this, nothing.